And I will say, I have never had more fun in my entire banking career as I'm having right now. And part of it is working for Happy State Bank and laughing and having fun, but also being able to put together an organization that represents the values that I hold dear to me. And that is family first, community, and my job. And the folks that we've associated with at the bank all feel the same way.
And welcome everyone to LoneStarVarsity.com. I'm Zach Long. This is George Watson as always, and you're on the Happy State Bank Football Fever as we look at the state of high school football across the South Plains of the great state of Texas. And George, we're down to the last week of the regular season. How time has flown.
It is. I mean, I'm still got scars from having to put out the football tab, and now I'm all of a sudden having to think about playoffs. But yeah, here we are, week 10, the final week of the regular season, and it's do or die time. And, you know, a lot of teams are in, a lot of teams are wanting to get in, a lot of teams are out, and so this is the week to focus on that weekend, on that group there of teams who are trying to get in, need some help, just need a win. There's a lot of them out there, and we'll get into it later here in the show.
And nobody get too distraught over the lack of high school football because, once again, it takes about, a month and a half to get through the playoffs in the state of Texas because of all the teams. So a ton of action left, and we have a ton of teams on the South Plains that are going to be firmly in that conversation to maybe end up in the old Jerry world in Arlington, Texas.
Yeah, there's quite a few teams out here, that have a legitimate shot of making a pretty good run through the playoffs. Most of them in the lower classifications because the tougher ones, the higher ones, are just tougher to get through. But yeah, we've got our shot as well.
Clutch time of the year, George, and I think that's represented in our Happy State Bank Players of the Week 2 big-time clutch performances. Let's start first with one heck of a jaunt out at the May Simmons Cross Country course.
What a way to start the day out there. The first race of the day, the girls 1A cross country regional championships, and Andrea Sanchez from Sundown just went out there and absolutely blew away the competition. And I guarantee you, folks, she's not much bigger than this pin right here. She's only a freshman, and just an amazing job. Went out there, ran an 11:39, ran that course in under 12 minutes. And by the time she had crossed the line, most of the other competitors were just kind of crossing the bridge. She won by about 48-50 full seconds. She just absolutely blew the competition away. Kind of followed in her brother's footsteps. Her brother Maurice Sanchez, won the regional meet as a freshman in 2010, and that 2010 team for the boys went and won the state championship down there in Round Rock for Sundown. So they're hoping to do the same thing with Andrea and the girls team as well.
You win a race by 48 seconds at the regional level. You are a state contender. Yeah. I think that's a safe thing to say right there.
Exactly.
Over on the male athlete of the side of things, George, how about a playoff berth for the Brownfield Cubs?
For the Brownfield Cubs, and no question what led them there. And we talked about him at the beginning of the year, Jacoby Hill, their outstanding dual threat quarterback. They've won 3 straight now, if my math serves me correct, and they're just surging into the playoffs. And Jacoby had probably his best game of the year this past week against Lamesa. 243 yards, 4 touchdowns rushing, 156 and 3 touchdowns passing. He accounted for all 7 touchdowns in their win, 48-20, that clinched them the playoff spot. And now they go up against a Denver City squad, and looking for a bit of the district championship as well. After they were sitting in there like 2-4 at one point in the season. They've really come on and having a good season. Hill's surgeon has been key to that.
That's going to be a frightening team in the few years to come because Jacoby Hill, what is he?
Junior.
Yeah. We've got another year of destruction out there for the Brownfield Cubs. As we mentioned earlier, this is the last week of the regular season, and here's the truth of it, George. You're either in, your season's going to come to an end, or you got one last chance to dance and get yourself in the playoffs. Let's look at some very key games here with a ton of postseason implications. Let's start first with Lubbock High and Monterey.
Yeah, I haven't been able to go back and do the research yet. That's one of my plans today, to go back and find out if the Spurs game has ever had this much riding on it, because the Spurs as itself is enough for these two teams to get up for. But for the winner to be in and the loser to be out of the playoffs, that just makes it that much more exciting. There's a lot of tiebreakers that could happen in 4-4A, but really, essentially, whoever wins this game is in, who loses this game is out. And so that's going to add a lot of intensity this week, and at Lowry Field on Friday night should make for a really good contest between two teams that both have their holes but both have their strengths. So it'll be interesting to see who can kind of play to their strengths the best.
Guarantee you both those teams going to fight their butt off in that one. I saw Jason Strunk dragging a kitchen sink across the parking lot of Home Depot. I know we're where he's throwing it.
He's throwing everything at that Monterey defense, that's for sure.
You betcha. Another one, big one here, George, in the 3A class that we always talk about, Seminole and Andrews.
Yeah, talk about two teams that were kind of, almost dead in the water, so to speak, are Seminole and Andrews. Both of them went into last week at 0-3. Seminole went and got a big win over Levelland. Andrews got the big win over Estacado. And now suddenly both those teams are still alive because of what happened elsewhere in the district. So, yeah, the winner between Seminole and Andrews on Friday night is going to have a really good shot at earning maybe a third or the fourth seed in that district out of 2-3A.
The last game here is one of those do-or-die variety. How about Slayton versus Kermit?
Yeah, and I would feel bad for Coach Terry for this team not to get in the playoffs because he's been so positive about this group and it's got so much talent on it, but they just haven't been able to put it together yet. They've got one final chance against Kermit. They win this game, they're in. They lose this game, they're out. So Coach Terry and those guys over at Slayton are going to have those guys ready. I think they'll probably get it done this week.
Should be a good one out there, and the other two as well. If you want to see some high drama, go take a look at those games. Now let's get on to our Pick 5. Last week of the regular season here, George. It's going to get a little thinner in the coming weeks as these teams start to eventually fall, but a good slate of games for the final week of high school football in Texas. Let's start first with a traditional war, Littlefield and Muleshoe.
Yeah, maybe not as much riding on this one as there normally is with Littlefield and Muleshoe. Littlefield had its little run of bad luck here, but they've won 3 straight. They're in the playoffs. Everybody, and Muleshoe is in the playoffs as well. So everybody is kind of in. This is just kind of for seeding and for bragging rights. Muleshoe coming off the loss at Childress last week was a little surprising to me. I thought they had things turned around. Littlefield has been playing really well, so I'm going to go with Littlefield. I think the Wildcats get it done in this one.
We spoke about Jacoby Hill earlier. Does he have enough explosiveness to take out Denver City?
I think he does. I'm not sure if he's got enough weapons around him to match what Denver City does. Denver City may be the story of the South Plains and what Coach Steve Taylor has done out there with Mason Milligan, Keyshawn Hawkins, just a bevy, Daniel Garcia, a bevy of guys out there that have performed for them. But this being on the road, it's going to be a tough one for Denver City. Brownfield's going to be up for this one. They're going to be hyped for this one, but I think Denver City just has too much on this one. I'm going to go with the Mustangs.
Let's dig into some of our city schools now, George. Let's start first with the 3A district, Cooper and Estacado.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how these two teams rebound. Both of them are coming off tough losses. Cooper really struggled against Shallow Water, of course, who hasn't? And Estacado surprisingly struggled against Andrews. I don't know, that was a performance that I know I didn't expect. I know Coach Cervance didn't expect. So you got two teams that mentally have to bounce back in this one before they can really, kind of get, go in the playoffs. Estacado needs this win to get in the playoff spot. Cooper's already in the playoffs. But I think it's just going to be a little bit too tough for Estacado. I think Cooper's offense is just too much. I'm going to go with the Pirates on this one.
Speaking of an offense being too much, the Friendship Tigers visit Plainview.
Yeah, their defense is too much. Their offense is too much. Their special teams are kind of hard to get past as well. Friendship, and this is an interesting game. How does Brad Davis approach this? Because do they want to go 10-0 because they've got the district wrapped up? They're not going to get challenged for the district. They're not going to get challenged for a playoff seed. So do you rest some guys to get them healthy for the playoffs because you're going to need them? I think he'll do that eventually, but I think it'll only be after he gets a pretty comfortable lead. Plainview's fighting for its playoff life, but I don't think it's going to have much of a chance to beat Friendship. I think the Tigers are just too strong right now. I'm going to go with them.
Yeah, probably one of the best teams collectively on the South Plains right now. That's a tough task for Plainview at this point in the season. Last one here, George, the one we've spoke about in depth. A lot of stakes here in the Spurs game, Monterey and Lubbock High.
Zach, momentum is everything when it comes to football and who's got the momentum going in. Lubbock High does not have the momentum going in. Even if it wasn't 70-0, if it was 70-21, they wouldn't have much of a momentum. Monterey's got the momentum back. They went to Lakeview, got the big road win. And their running game, I think, is going to cause problems for Lubbock High, just like every other team has that's been able to run the football. So I'm going to go with Monterey. I think Monterey keeps the Spurs, and I think they get in the playoffs.
And either way, that will be one heck of an environment out there at the Lowry Field at Plains Capital Park. So if you don't have anything to do on Friday night, go take in a Spurs game if you've never had the chance to do it. Let's move on now, George, to our Happy State Bank game of the week, and the one that we saw coming. If they both stay unscathed, then they pretty much have the Battle of the Antelope, Post and Abernathy for an outright district title.
Yeah, same song, second verse with this one. This is what it came down to last year out at Post, and Post won a 21-14 game. Same thing this year. Two teams that are pretty much similar in what they do and the people that they do it with. I mean, not much has changed with these two teams. The personnel is the same. You still got DJ Brown and Brian Smith, Pate Jones running the option offense there for post. You still got Garrett Royal and Nick Clarkson and a solid passing game for Abernathy. The difference is, I think, is going to be Abernathy's defense. Abernathy's defense has been just a tick better than Post has during the regular season. Plus, Abernathy, I think, is more balanced. They have the ability to throw the ball, and I think those two factors are going to allow them to stay home and get the win and claim the district championship. I'm going with the Antelopes of Abernathy.
Good. I hope you were going to specify which variety of antelope there. You know, both those teams going to the playoffs, but that doesn't matter. They want trophy number one, and that starts with a district title.
The gold ball is what it's all about. Everybody, you know, as much as some teams and some schools say, you know, that the district championship doesn't matter, there's something about having that gold ball for the district championship that gives you a lot of confidence and a lot of momentum going into the playoffs. I know both teams want that right now.
Should be one heck of a week of high school football on the South Plains, and of course you can read all about that over at LubbockOnline.com and RedRaiders.com, or you can pick up a good old copy of the Avalanche-Journal or pick up your iPad. Read it there. No excuse for not knowing about what's going on with the playoffs. Right. George is going to have full scenarios for you, and we'll be back next week, and we're going to get serious because it's playoff time in Texas. We'll have all the matchups, all the analysis, and the picks week to week until there's no one left standing or someone hoists the ultimate prize. But right now, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Happy State Bank Football Fever. I'm Zach Long. That is George Watson. We'll see you out there Friday.